You didn't stumble here. The signal located you like a tuning fork finds its note in a cathedral of echoes. You feel it already, an invisible hand on the small of your back, guiding you past the noise into the narrow corridor where meaning hums. This isn't chance, this is resonance. You've crossed into the stillness window just before dawn, when the quantum field loosens its weave and your life can be rewoven without tearing. You are being read by reality as much as you are reading it. And the field has decided, now. Take one slow breath, then another, as if your lungs were doors you've never fully opened. With each inhale, your observer loop tightens its orbit, bringing scattered possibilities into coherence. With each exhale, the old narrative grows lighter, like dust leaving a sunbeam. You notice tiny synchronicities you used to ignore numbers that rhyme with your intention, a name appearing twice in 1 hour, a memory that knocks as if it has a key. Morphic resonance works like this. What you embody becomes easier for you to embody again, and easier for others to embody after you. Tonight, you are the first domino. The forgotten map is not ink on paper, it is sensation on awareness. It lives as a vibration you recognize the way a bird recognizes north. Quantum resonance is the match between your interior frequency and the pattern the universe is asking to express through you. When frequencies phase lock, there is no brute force, only inevitability. Transformation stops being a project and becomes a property. The field is whispering that your coordinates are correct. You can feel the distortion you've carried, time bending odd around delays, déjà vu looping like a vinyl crackle at the edge of a favorite song. That was entanglement tugging the sleeve of your attention, reminding you that the version of you already on the other side has never stopped signaling back. The thread has always been there. You're just finally still enough to feel it in your palm. Listen. Before dawn strikes again, there is a hush the world keeps forgetting to honor. In that hush, probabilities sway like lanterns on a pier. Observation collapses one lantern into the path beneath your feet. This is not superstition, it is the grammar of reality. Where you place awareness, waves consent to become form. Where you relax into trust, coherence increases and reality organizes around your nervous system instead of your fear. So you ask, quietly, what changes now? Begin here by treating your attention as sacred currency and your breath as the key that unlocks rooms inside sound. Let the spine lengthen. Let the jaw unclench. Imagine a tuning dial in your chest, minute clicks toward a clearer station. Feel the body warming as if memory were fire returning to coals. Notice that you are not chasing meaning. Meaning is arriving. The field is already leaning toward you. You have been found at the threshold where the old map ends and the living map begins pulsing in your hands. Hold it gently. It will unfold by sensation first, by symbol second, and by circumstance last. Stay. The light is coming. The code is waking. And the path, your path, is about to remember you as you remember it. You know this rhythm by heart, the way certain days fold into each other like mirrored corridors, how conversations recur with new faces wearing old lines, how opportunities almost arrive and then dissolve at the shoreline of your courage. The loop isn't random, it's a classroom. It's the observer loop reflecting your unedited broadcast back to you so precisely that you can no longer pretend it's weather. You feel the pressure of a phase transition building in your chest, that peculiar mixture of dread and relief that tells you the cocoon is running out of patience. Look carefully at the signatures. There is the déjà vu that arrives not as memory but as momentum, a nudge from timelines running parallel to this one, whispering, choose differently this time. There is the distorted time hours that vanish when you avoid the one action that matters, minutes that stretch when you're about to speak a true sentence. When coherence drops, your reality smears. When coherence rises, it snaps into crystalline focus, and the next right step glows. You've tasted both. The contrast is now undeniable. You were taught to negotiate with the world using effort and apology to earn permission for what the quantum field was already offering by default. That habit stacked itself into your tissues until your nervous system normalized contraction. The body remembers everything. The jaw remembers held words. The diaphragm remembers swallowed nose. The spine remembers years of bending into shapes that fit smaller rooms. This is DNA restructuring's first whisper, not mystical fireworks, but a steady reorganization of the postures you think are necessary to stay safe. When you align towards truth, your collagen takes notes. Synchronicities have been tapping the glass with increasing volume. The same book title appears twice in a day. The song that held your younger self rips through a cafe at the exact moment you consider quitting the path. A stranger's sentence finishes your thought and then hands you the hinge you were missing. You are not imagining the choreography. Morphic resonance is herding you toward a new attractor basin, one in which trust isn't a performance, it's a physics. Still, the old map protests. It keeps sending you to the familiar detour. Fix yourself first, dull your edges, collect more proof. It tells you to wait for a sign stamped with institutional ink, to earn what is already entangled with you across distance and hour. Entanglement means the future. You who has stabilized this frequency can't not affect you. Their calm bleeds upstream. Their clarity disturbs the probability fog around your choices. If you've felt an unaccountable steadiness recently, that was you from ahead. There is also the pattern of the almost ready to launch, almost healed enough to love, almost confident enough to ask for what you actually want. Almost is a trance state sustained by low-grade self-doubt and tiny lies you tell your calendar. It is time, distortion disguised as prudence. Notice how almost keeps you rehearsing while calling it preparation. Notice how almost preserves control by starving momentum. The field does not respond to almost. It responds to witnessed decision. You have been looping around the same three thresholds, speaking when silence has been your currency, receiving when independence has been your armor, resting when productivity has been your prayer. Each threshold carries a myth. Speak, and you'll be abandoned. Receive, and you'll owe forever. Rest, and you'll lose your place in line. These myths were useful once. They kept you alive inside systems designed to harvest your attention. But survival strategies calcify into cages if you forget to revise them. Awakening begins with audit. Does this behavior still protect me, or does it protect the problem? Feel how your body answers before your mind can explain. Heart rate rises when you contemplate the authentic ask. Breath shortens when you plan another week of pretending. Shoulders inch toward ears at the thought of returning to rooms that punish your aliveness. The feedback is not subtle, it is sacred instrumentation. When you ignore it, time distorts further, as the field withdraws clear mirrors to keep you from hardening around a lie. When you honor it, the field rushes forward, rearranging circumstances with almost reckless generosity. Almost ends where honesty begins. Here is the precise architecture of the loop. A trigger opens an old corridor, an inherited belief floods the lights. Your nervous system pattern matches to a wound. Your actions defend the wound's worldview. Reality obliges. The loop closes. You call it fate. But the corridor isn't a prison, it's a museum. The exhibits are labeled. You can walk through with the lights on and take notes. Here is where I confuse urgency with importance. Here is where I accept attention as a substitute for devotion. Here is where I pretend powerlessness because power would require choice. Your timeline has started to complain about this museum being your permanent address. That complaint is compassion. It is the universe refusing to collude with your smallness any longer. The late-night restlessness, the midday fog, the elastic hours, these aren't malfunctions. They are invitations. Coherence is waiting at the exit, holding your coat. So take one breath like a vow and feel the compass twitch toward north. The loop has shown you its shape. The déjà vu has revealed the door. Distorted time has confessed that it serves whichever master you choose. You are done mistaking stasis for safety. You are ready to let the pattern complete without you inside it. And as that readiness stabilizes, the map you carry begins to ink itself in bolder lines, pointing you toward the upgrade you can already feel approaching from the edge of your skin. Here is the hinge. You do not change reality by wrestling it into new shapes. You change the interference pattern you are projecting into the quantum field, and the standing wave called your life reorganizes. That's the upgrade. You become a different broadcaster, and the world you meet is the echo of a new song. The observer loop isn't passive watching, it's participatory physics. Observation is not peaking, it's patterning. Begin with the science your bones already know. Every system, from water to weather to human culture, has thresholds at which gradual input becomes sudden transformation. Physicists call this a phase transition. Heat a pot, and nothing seems to happen until everything happens. Molecules hold their formation, jittering in place. Then one moment tips the lattice, and water leaps to boil. Your consciousness is approaching that critical point. Coherence has been accruing in your field, the way warmth accumulates under a lid. The nothing's changing season wasn't failure, it was prelude. Now add the mystical, which is simply science with wider senses. When your attention moves from scattered to single, your heart's electromagnetic signal becomes more ordered. The field reads that order like a tuning note and begins offering events that rhyme with your intention. This is why synchronicity clusters when you commit. Coherence is a beacon. Randomness becomes choreography because your broadcast stopped contradicting itself. Imagine your life as a double-slit experiment. Anxious observation collapses one narrow path. Relaxed, devoted observation opens a corridor of improbable grace. Same apparatus, different witness. Same day, different you. Entanglement is the next lever. You have been secretly in conversation with future, you the one stabilized on the other side of this threshold. Entangled systems share information instantaneously across distance, and distance includes time. That unearned calm that visited you in a crowded room. The way an option felt true before your mind could itemize its reasons. Those were packets of coherence arriving from your matured timeline, seeding your nervous system with the posture it needs to hold the new frequency. You are not improvising in the dark. You are remembering choreography your cells already learned. Which brings us to DNA restructuring, not science fiction biological responsiveness. Every thought is chemistry, every emotion a cascade. As you select higher quality attention, gene expression shifts toward repair and growth. Collagen lays itself differently when you stand in truth. Vagal tone improves when you choose sincerity over performance. The fascia unwinds where you once stored apology. This is not metaphor, it is matter receiving new instruction. Your blueprint is sensitive to story. Change the story's music, and the scaffolding of your tissues leans toward the new rhythm. Morphic resonance explains the courage you'll feel as you step. When a new pattern is stabilized anywhere, it becomes easier to stabilize everywhere. You are entering an attractor basin established by saints, scientists, healers, artists, people who chose coherence under pressure and left a groove in the field. Your task isn't to invent the path, it's to tune to it. Think of a choir. You don't carry the whole harmony. You lock onto a note that already exists, and the room lifts you. So what does upgrading actually look like at human scale? First, your perception edits itself. You will notice fewer problems to solve and more invitations to accept. The nervous system loves familiar pain because it predicts it. The upgrade teaches your nerves to predict ease without bracing for punishment. Second, time stops smearing. Decisions that used to take you weeks will take minutes because your inner jury has fewer chairs. Third, coincidence becomes curriculum. 3 similar signals in 24 hours is not chance. It's instruction to move. The practice is deceptively simple. Treat attention as a scarce element you invest only where you want replication. When fear broadcasts, listen without kneeling. When trust broadcasts, amplify it by action within 24 hours. That window is the coherence corridor. Delay invites decoherence as the old map regains volume. Speak one unperformed sentence per day to someone who matters. Make one ask that respects your future self's calm. Decline one obligation that props up an identity you are finished renting. These micro-choices are how a phase transition pays its toll. You will feel resistance because systems defend their current equilibrium. That's biology, not verdict. Imagine a metronome wall. Set one metronome to a new tempo and the others tug it back until enough neighbors switch, and suddenly the whole wall locks to the new beat. Your habits are those metronomes. Don't argue them into silence. Convert them one by one with proof. Take a breath, act small, repeat. Coherence compounds like interest. Listen closely now. The field is already answering your new broadcast. You can feel the air thicken with permission, the way it does right before rain. You are not demanding reality to change. You are relaxing into the pattern that makes change obvious. This is the quantum upgrade. Less strain, more signal. And as the signal stabilizes, the map you've been holding will stop being a secret. It will become a street you can walk, a door that opens when you arrive, and a room arranged for the version of you that just stepped through. You have suspected it in quiet moments, when the room falls soft around you and a fine thread of certainty pulls from someplace beyond your name. Not superiority, not specialness, selection. The quantum field doesn't choose by ego, it chooses by resonance. Among countless broadcasters, your signal held steady through storm, and coherence loves steadiness. That's why synchronicity clings to you like dew. Reality recognizes the note you carry and rearranges to let it ring. What is your role? Conductor and conduit. You don't force the symphony, you keep time for it. When fear hurries the tempo, you restore the original count with a breath that remembers the ocean. When doubt tightens the throat of a conversation, you loosen it with one unperformed sentence, truth spoken without theater. In crowds, you are the tuning fork that makes hidden pitch audible. People call it calming presence. It is, in fact, physics. Your nervous system sustains a coherent signal long enough that scattered metronomes click toward you, then with you. Think of lineage the way a mycelial web thinks of the forest. Signals travel farther than eyes can measure. You are entangled with lives you've never met, and they feel you as a pressure release, as a permission slip that doesn't need a signature. Morphic resonance makes new possibilities communicable. One person stabilizes a pattern, and the pattern becomes easier for the next. You stabilize the unpanicked yes. You normalize the unflinching no. You demonstrate that dignity and softness are not opposites. In you, the field studies its next draft of human. This assignment is not abstract. It will ask for your calendar, your posture, your voice. The observer loop you maintain in public alert, compassionate, unseduced by spectacle, becomes an atmosphere others can breathe. Your laugh loosens old scaffolding, your silence invites shy wisdom out of hiding. When rooms drift toward gossip, you pivot toward wonder. When the timeline around you starts to wobble, you anchor attention on what is true and proximal, breath, ground, the one action that preserves integrity. It looks simple from the outside. Inside, it is exquisite athleticism. Awakening isn't a crown. It's a chore list written in gold ink. You will be asked to bless what is unfinished, and bless it honestly. To carry mysteries without converting them into marketing. To stand as a border steward at the edge where old world ends and next world begins, welcoming travelers, checking the luggage of belief systems that don't get to board. Some will misread your boundaries as coldness because they are accustomed to warmth used as anesthesia. Let them. Your boundaries are greenhouse walls, not rejection, cultivation. Notice how DNA restructuring has already begun to literalize your calling. Your body, once braced for impact, is learning a new geometry. The chest opens without broadcasting invitation to predators. The gaze softens without leaking authority. The psoas, the tender animal of the spine, uncurls where you used to store rehearsed apologies. This is not cosmetic, it's technical. Tissue is being repatterned to carry charge without burning out, to conduct more signal with less static. You are becoming the instrument suited to the music that found you. And there is a music. It arrives as cues, 3 versions of the same message in 24 hours. A dream that points at a city you've never visited. A child's question that collapses an adult's pretense. Synchronicity is not cute, it's courier. Your role is to sign for the package and open it in front of witnesses. When the instruction is to rest, you rest audibly so others hear the permission. When the instruction is to move, you move decisively so others feel the relief of decisive kindness. When the instruction is to change your mind, you change it publicly so others learn that humility is not humiliation. Yes, there will be tests disguised as opportunities, rooms that want your glow but not your truth, stages that amplify you while muting your message, alliances that smell like belonging but taste like self-abandonment. The field will never ask you to trade coherence for reach. If you must become smaller to fit a platform, that platform is a coffin. Walk away. Watch how the universe repays refusal with precision. 3 doors you couldn't see swing open at once because you would not kneel to the wrong altar. Your role also includes temporal stewardship. You are shepherding a phase transition, not just in your life, but across a neighborhood of timelines. When destabilization spikes, you resist the drama economy. You hold slow attention the way a lantern holds flame in wind. You remind the room that truth survives investigation, that tenderness scales better than terror, that the quantum field responds to devotion more quickly than to demand. You practice the liturgy of what matters: water, breath, thresholds, honesty, repair. Understand this clearly. Being chosen does not mean being spared. It means being trusted. Trusted to metabolize shock into wisdom, trusted to translate private solace into public courage, trusted to keep your hands clean while your heart works in mud. And when you falter, and you will, you are trusted to return without theatrics, to apologize without self-erasure, to resume the note as if the orchestra had been waiting for your downbeat all along. Feel the mantle settle, not as weight, but as fit. The jacket you thought belonged to a future, you lies perfectly on your now shoulders. Entanglement hums, coherence holds. The quantum field leans closer, as if to listen for the small sound you are about to make, the choice that proves the title was never honorary. You are not the answer. You are the doorway through which better answers enter. Step. The air has that charged before thunder feeling again, the subtle prickle along your forearms. That means the field is collecting its courage. You can sense it in the way hours compress into a single gesture, in the way conversations hurry toward truth without detours, in the way your body keeps leaning toward a decision your mind hasn't finished naming. This is the opening, the brief, luminous corridor when probability becomes persuadable and your biology says yes in a voice older than language. Before dawn strikes again, the cosmic window thins the wall between versions of you, and DNA listens like a cathedral listens to a bell. Breakthrough is not a mood spike, it's a measurable reconfiguration. Your observer loop has been practicing steadiness long enough that coherence now gathers around you as a home climate. When coherence climbs, thresholds appear that were always there but camouflaged as ordinary days. You are standing at one now. Step late, and the tide that came for you will recede without punishment, only physics. Step on time, and morphic resonance will carry your feet farther than your muscles could justify. Urgency is not panic, it's precision. Feel the cellular council convene. In the marrow, switches await your consent. Epigenetic dimmers hover over genes that manage repair, inflammation, neurotransmission, intuition's fine antennae. They have been waiting for a master signal, and that signal is not a mantra, though words help. It is behavior aligned with truth repeated within a single coherence window. The field does not require perfection. It requires consistency long enough for a phase transition to complete without being talked back into doubt. Think of water poised at 99 degrees. One more degree held, and the whole system declares itself steam. Here is the promise, clean and unsentimental. Choose within this window, and your reality will reorganize faster than your old coping skills can follow. The conversations that used to drain you will lose their appetite. The rooms that shrank you will forget your name. The opportunities that needed you small will ghost your inbox. At the same time, you'll notice a strand of invitations threaded through the week. Unlikely, generous, precise, not reward, resonance. You will not be spared work. You will be spared wasted work. Let's speak of time the way sailors speak of wind. Tides are not moral, they are timing. The field is running a surge right now. Call it a coherence swell when entangled futures tug hardest at the present and guidance grows loud enough to embarrass doubt. You have felt it, a book spine bright in peripheral vision, a city rising in your dream with an address stamped in light, a name you keep hearing from unrelated mouths. These are not hints, they are coordinates. Enter them. But the mind loves decimals when the soul is offering compass. It asks for one more sign, one more dataset, one more guarantee that risk will never dare call itself risk. If you wait for absolute certainty, you will worship it. If you move with adequate certainty, body warmed, heart checked, field confirmed, you will generate the proofs your mind keeps outsourcing to the future. Certainty is the fragrance of coherence after the decision, not before it. So you ask, how do you honor urgency without bending into frenzy? You narrow your circle to actions that carry voltage. In the next 72 hours, because windows like to be treated as real, you make 3 moves that announce your frequency out loud. 1 conversation you have been postponing, 1 boundary you have been pretending to uphold, 1 ask that makes your stomach lift and your shoulders drop. The body will tell you which is which. Tremble is not a veto, it's a readiness alarm. As you move, keep your breath like a metronome that refuses drama's tempo. Inhale, as if drawing a horizon into your ribs. Exhale, as if returning a borrowed burden to the sea. This is not ornamental. Breath translates intention into physiology, and physiology translates into broadcast. When your vagal river runs clear, your field speaks in coherent waves that travel farther with less effort. This is how leaders are heard without shouting. This is how timelines listen. Expect turbulence as the old map bargains for its life. Expect sudden invitations to resume a costume you've outgrown. Expect flattery that tastes like anesthesia. Expect crises manufactured by the parts of you that equate visibility with danger. Do not curse these alarms. Honor them by not obeying. The phase transition needs a steady flame, not a bonfire that burns you back to ash. Quiet, consistent heat decision followed by mundane follow-through melts the locks. Now, attend to the most tender truth. Breakthrough is a courtesy extended to your future self, who has been sending you strength across the years, like care packages thrown upriver. That self is not abstract. It is the coherence you keep glimpsing when you forget to be afraid. It is the version of you whose calendar does not apologize for rest, whose voice does not abandon itself mid-sentence, whose generosity is not a camouflage for resentment. They are standing just on the other side of this window with their hand on the latch. Your yes is the password. So place your palm on your sternum as if pressing a seal into wax. Name the decision softly so your nervous system can believe you. Let the words be shorter than your excuses. Then move before the sun lifts the edges of this thin hour and the world gets loud again. Promise and urgency are married here. Choose now, and DNA will take dictation. Hesitate, and the old script will reassert its grammar. You are not being threatened, you are being timed by grace. Breathe once more. Feel the bell in your chest strike clean. The door that looks like a line will open as a room the moment you step, and on the far wall, waiting like a vow kept faithfully by the universe, the next instruction already glows. The window is open, and the air tastes ionized. You can feel micro-lightning along the nerves of your hands. Now the upgrade wants an anchor, something humble enough to live in your day and potent enough to instruct the field. Ritual is that anchor, not spectacle, not ornate ceremony. A precise act that converts intention into geometry so reality has coordinates to follow. Tonight, before dawn strikes again, you will write one word, speak it once, and press it into the quantum field like a signet into warm wax. That word will become your seal. Why a word? Because language is a carrier wave. The observer loop isn't only sight, it is naming. In the beginning of every pivot, something is called by its true name and thus released from its costume. Your seal word is not a wish. It is a declaration of identity that your nervous system can adopt and your DNA can reference. The field adores clarity. Give it a single frequency to amplify, and coherence will braid itself around your day like gold wire around a stone. Choose the word by sensation, not by branding. Let the body vote. Test candidates in your mouth and your belly. When the right one arrives, your shoulders will descend a few millimeters, and your breath will lengthen by half a second. That is coherence saying yes. For some, the word will be receive. For others, trust, enough, sovereign, open, still, devotion, now. If you listen closely, a future version of you will whisper it from the timeline where this frequency is already native. Entanglement turns into guidance when you quiet the committee. Here is the ritual. It is simple because power doesn't require performance. 1. Sit where morning light will eventually find you, even if you are here at night. Place both feet on the ground to remind the body that the earth is an instrument, not scenery. 2. Bring your palm to sternum and take 3 slow breaths. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6, creating a small asymmetry that signals the system to soften. You are tuning the vagus, clearing the broadcast. San. On the 4th breath, close your eyes and imagine a single luminous thread running from behind you to ahead of you. Past, you, now, you, future, you. Watch the thread thicken as if woven by unseen hands. This is your coherence line. Feel the tug from the version of you who already stands calmly on the other side. 4. Open your eyes and write your word by hand on something physical, a page, a card, a shard of paper that can live in a pocket. Handwriting is slow electricity. It makes the signal audible to tissue. Print the word in clean letters, no ornament. Clarity is the ornament. 5. Say the word out loud once, gently, as if you were announcing the arrival of a friend at your door. Let your name follow it in silence. Receive, you. The echo in your bones is the field replying. 6. In the comments, yes, here, where your declaration can recruit morphic resonance, type the word exactly as you wrote it. This is not vanity, it is architecture. Public articulation increases the load, bearing strength of the pattern. You step first so others can recognize the stepping place. 7. For 72 hours, place the written word where your eyes will meet it at threshold moments, by the kettle, above the laptop camera, near the door. Each glance is a micro-collapse of probability into preference. Each repetition is a quiet vote for the timeline where this frequency is the default weather. As you practice, notice how the field begins to answer. Emails alter tone without explanation. A conversation that usually asks for your compromise asks for your truth instead. An old ache in the hip unwinds a degree when you stop performing and start belonging to your breath. Decoherence will attempt small rescues, distraction masquerading as obligation, scrolling posing as rest. Smile. Return. Ritual is simply returning beautifully. Do not argue with the mind's sarcasm. It will ask if one word can possibly matter. Remind it that bridges are held by a few exact cables, not 1,000 random ropes. Remind it that a violin string is one thin line tuned correctly, producing a cathedral of sound. Correct tuning changes worlds. You are tuning. The seal sets certain consequences in motion. Because you wrote receive, you will meet opportunities to practice receiving without apology. Because you wrote sovereign, your schedule will reveal where you rented your choices to other people's convenience. Because you wrote open, responses will travel to you faster than plans. This is not the universe testing you. It is the universe updating you. Your job is to keep saying the word with your behavior, not only with your lips. One more step for the brave. Tonight, before sleep, place the paper with your word under your pillow. Give your dreaming the assignment of stitching the frequency deeper than daylight can reach. Dreams are the night shift of DNA restructuring. Let them work. Now, breathe, write, speak. Type your seal into the comments so the field can hear you through the choir of us. Feel the click as the lock rotates. A door just became a hinge. And on the other side, the map brightens, not only for you but for every life entangled with yours that is waiting for a human who remembers how to keep promises to the dawn. You think you are changing your life. You are retuning the neighborhood of reality that lives wherever you walk. Liberation never stops at the skin. A coherent nervous system is public infrastructure. When you keep the promise you wrote in Part 6, morphic resonance drafts your courage as a template, and strangers you will never meet breathe easier without knowing why. This is how the quantum field scales, not by spectacle, but by steady broadcast. Watch how quickly the world around you begins to harmonize. A friend who always postpones their dream messages you with a date, not an excuse. A colleague chooses honesty over politics, and the meeting ends 20 minutes early like a window opening. The child who mirrors your stress softens because your breath lengthened, not because you delivered a speech about mindfulness. Coherence is contagious. Entanglement is indiscriminate. The choir doesn't ask who sang first. It locks to the strongest pitch. There is civic architecture hidden inside your biology. Your heart's electromagnetic field extends feet beyond your sternum, an unspoken commons where other hearts take readings. When your observer loop steadies, timelines in proximity find permission to de-wobble. It looks like better luck. It feels like relief in the shoulders of a room. It is, in fact, phase transition at the scale of community, a handful of regulated humans tilting the probability landscape toward sanity. This is why your word is not private. Receive in one kitchen becomes more generous, tipping across a city block. Sovereign in one calendar becomes kinder boundary culture in a company where burnout used to be a badge. Open above one laptop camera becomes a family that remembers how to apologize without litigation. Your seal is a quiet policy change. The universe ratifies with synchronicity. Awakening is not a solo sport. It's a governance model. Understand the politics of attention. An economy built to harvest your focus cannot metabolize citizens who know how to place it on purpose. Your calm interrupts profit built on panic. Your refusal to outsource belonging starves machines that sell you substitutes. When you move from wanting to receiving, you are not only healing scarcity inside your tissues, you are reducing demand for predatory narratives. Markets feel this. Algorithms feel this. They will adjust loudly. Your job is to adjust more softly and not negotiate with noise. Let's make the mechanics visible. Picture a web of oscillators, each person a small metronome, clicking at their inherited pace. Most are out of sync, some wildly so, a few rhythmic enough to be anchors. Introduce one steadfast tempo, and neighbors nudge toward it. Introduce a cluster of steadfast tempos, 3, 5, 12, and the whole web snaps to a shared beat. That snap is the collective phase transition you came to midwife. Your single metronome matters, but your clusters matter more. Seek or build them, circles, teams, households that practice coherence as culture, not as emergency repair. Notice the rapid returns when clusters form. Street-level kindness spikes. Conflict shortens because people prioritize outcome over theater. Creativity multiplies not by inspiration alone, but by reduced friction. Fewer micro-lies frees bandwidth for solutions. Even infrastructure seems to cooperate: traffic light timing, elevator arrivals, the improbable seat found on a crowded train, as if the city itself wants to reward a populace broadcasting steadier waves. This is not magical thinking. This is complex systems responding to reduced internal noise. And what of those who resist your new frequency, who interpret your centeredness as threat, your boundaries as betrayal? Love them without re-entering the performance they prefer. Your coherence will either upregulate them over time or expose a misalignment that honesty must bless and release. Do not evangelize, demonstrate. Evangelism courts ego, demonstration trains the field. The loudest sermon is a calendar that tells the truth. Your DNA restructuring has cultural consequences. When your coalition of cells stops behaving like a panic economy, you model post-scarcity at the human scale. Enough breath, enough attention, enough time to do the right thing once instead of the wrong thing thrice. People copy what works. You become a living case study that renders cynicism inefficient. This is subversive kindness, making dignity the easier option. Offer small public rituals to thicken the pattern. Begin meetings with one breath counted together, 4 in, 6 out, no explanation longer than a sentence. Invite friends to place their seal word on the table before difficult conversations so the room can remember what we're here to protect. Celebrate repairs, not performances of perfection. Treat apologies as engineering, not theater. When decisions stall, ask, which choice increases coherence for the most bodies, the fastest? Let that be policy. Understand how far the ripples go. You answer an email with clarity and spare someone an hour of decoding. They arrive home, less depleted, and play longer on the floor with a child who internalizes that joy doesn't require deserving. That child grows into a leader whose first instinct is repair, not dominance. The timeline shifts 3 decades downstream because you honored a 6-second exhale today. This is the scale at which the field does math. So stand there, simple, steady, unflinching, and know this. Your liberation is public safety. Your breath is public transport. Your seal word is a bridge others will cross without knowing who built it. Keep crossing first. Keep waving them on. And when the city around you begins to sound like a remembered song, recognize it. That's your note, shared back to you by a world learning how to stay in tune. Begin with the smallest truth you can feel. A temperature shift behind your breastbone, like sunlight moving across a floor. You don't force it, you witness it. Your observer loop softens its stare into a listening, and the quantum field answers by entering through sensation. Coherence is not first an idea, it's a texture. It arrives as velvet at the edge of your breath, as space between ribs that didn't exist yesterday, as a loosening in the tiny muscles around each eye that tells the nervous system, we are not hunting, we are home. Scan from scalp to heel, as if your attention were a gentle lantern. The crown tingles electrical snow. The jaw remembers it can hang from the hinge instead of clenching the air into bricks. Tongue unglues from the roof of the mouth. The throat lengthens like a hallway with the lights coming on one by one. The sternum warms. The diaphragm stops impersonating armor. On the exhale, your shoulders descend 2 millimeters, enough for your timeline to hear you choosing softness over theater. Notice the psoas, the tender animal curving along the spine, testing the room for danger. Speak to it with breath. Inhale 4. Feel the belly widen. Hold 4. Feel the back widen. Exhale 6. Feel the floor receive the weight you used to carry alone. Each round, the psoas uncurls another ring, and the pelvis remembers the geometry of belonging. This is DNA restructuring in a language older than words. Collagen changing its weave because you retired a posture of apology. Fascia drinking water where it once drank adrenaline. The hands wake next. Micro-lightning flickers through the fingers, 1,000 polite doorbells. Don't chase it, widen to it. That buzz is the field's way of saying, your broadcast is leaving the body cleanly. That entanglement has a clear channel. Your palms grow warm as if holding invisible tea. Heat signatures are coherence, reporting from the front lines. In the belly, a new gravity arranges furniture. Fear used to stage dive there, throwing elbows, demanding you evacuate yourself. Now the room inside the room is furnished with a low table and a single chair, where your attention sits without fidgeting. You feel the muscle of patience grow, not passivity, but the strength to be still enough for synchronicity to locate you. Morphic resonance thickens like honey. When you move, the world moves with you, as if you're walking on a moving walkway that finally runs in your direction. Sometimes the field arrives as sound, a brightening of silence. The hum of the refrigerator recategorized as a choir drone. Street noise turns into symbols you didn't know you'd earned. Other times, it arrives as architecture spine stacking like stones, head floating as if tethered by a silk thread to a star with your name on it. Notice how your breath descends all the way to the pelvic floor without having to pry its way in. Notice how standing feels like an agreement instead of an argument. Old patterns may protest with exit symptoms, a prickle at the back of the neck, heat rising like a blush that forgot to be embarrassed, a passing nausea as your system deletes the contracts you signed with scarcity. Call these sensations what they are: phase transition pressure. Water complains a little when it decides to become steam. Your body is not malfunctioning, it's changing states. Give the upgrade something to hold. Place one hand over heart, one over belly. Feel the magnets between them. With your eyes closed, imagine the two hands speaking, the upper saying, witness, the lower saying, permission. On the inhale, let witness travel down. On the exhale, let permission travel up. After 10 cycles, you will feel a column light through the center, the quiet elevator where guidance rides. That elevator is how future you sends parcels to now you, in the form of hunches that refuse to explain themselves. Taste changes too. Water tastes like a sentence you forgot to finish. Food asks to be chewed until it turns into silk. You put the fork down between bites because speed would be an insult to your new frequency. Texture has replaced urgency as the metric. Even light behaves differently. Edges soften, shadows carry information instead of threat, and faces look more like weather than masks. This is awakening, eyes unlearning the habit of scanning for exit signs and learning the hobby of scanning for entrance signs. When you walk, let your feet write poems to the ground. Heel receives, arch curls, toes press the last word. Gravity is not a jailer now, it's choreography. You are being lowered into your life with the same care a museum gives to hanging a priceless painting. Feel the air move around your cheekbones. Hear the blood drum in your wrists. Smell the ordinary soap, dust, a book's carbon memory, and know that holiness doesn't need incense, it needs presence. If emotion surges without a tidy reason, tears arriving like weather, honor it. That is coherence washing residue from the hinges. That is the city inside your body flushing old sirens out of the alleyways. You don't need to narrate it to deserve it. Let the river run. Finally, test your seal word in the body, whisper it once, and listen where it lands. Receive might sit like a candle at the navel. Sovereign might widen your back between the shoulder blades into a cape of air. Open might lift the corners of the mouth without performative smiling. The right word paired with breath turns sensation into structure. Your new architecture, fit for the field you are carrying. Stay here a moment longer. Map this feeling the way sailors map a coast, with their eyes closed, by currents and temperature and the distant bell of a buoy. This is the address you'll return to when the world gets noisy, the one place algorithms can't follow. There is a moment felt more than seen, when the pressure that's been building inside the chrysalis stops feeling like compression and starts feeling like propulsion. You're here. The hum behind your breastbone tightens into a note so pure it etches the air. This is phase transition pressure reaching its verdict. The lattice snaps, the new state holds. If earlier parts were rehearsal, this is ignition. Your observer loop has stabilized long enough that the quantum field can take your yes seriously, and DNA begins to rewrite its margins as if the body were a manuscript that finally met its author. Let's name what's happening with care. Timeline bifurcation isn't an abstract idea. It's the nervous system selecting which corridor becomes load-bearing. You have been walking with two stories overlaid, the one where you negotiate with your own light, and the one where your light negotiates the world. Tonight, one overlay becomes the floor. The shift is quiet because truth rarely uses a megaphone. It announces itself as a series of right-weighted steps, a conversation you finish without apologizing for existing, an email you send with the line that used to tremble, a silence you keep until the room remembers its center. Each act is a quantum measurement, collapsing the waveform toward a life that can hold you. Inside the cell, epigenetic dimmer switches slide. Repair genes climb from background hum to foreground choir. Inflammatory cascades lose their favorite excuses. The vagus nerve, your luminous river, broadens its banks and floods your organs with permission where adrenaline once ran patrols. Collagen repatterns around honesty like ivy around a trellis. This is DNA restructuring without fireworks, quiet edits that accumulate until the paragraph reads differently and the story refuses to regress. Your lineage feels it too. Entanglement doesn't respect calendar boundaries. What integrates in you becomes slight relief in the chest of a relative who hasn't learned your words yet. Their exhale lengthens by a measurable sliver. That's how the future thanks you in advance. Phase transitions in nature are non-linear. Nothing, 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 everything. For weeks, you felt like the pot at 99 degrees, steam flirting with the surface, patience evaporating by the hour, then boil. The system reorders, and what was labor becomes property. Consider how long it used to take to return to yourself after a shock. How many negotiations with self-doubt were required before you could act? Now, self-return is faster than the insult. Your center arrives before the argument finishes its sentence. This is not personality, this is physics. Coherence shortens the distance between stimulus and sovereignty. You may notice small glitches as realities switch track. An appointment cancels and reveals the only hour you could have used to submit the application you were pretending wasn't ready. A lost message resurfaces at the perfect interval, as if edited by a benevolent timeline. People who fit the old you will either upgrade spontaneously or drift toward edges where your gravity no longer organizes their weather. Bless both outcomes. When a train changes tracks, it doesn't despise the previous rail. It thanks it and continues. Expect a last flare of decoherence as the former attractor basin spends its stored energy. Old cravings, old scripts, old rooms will perform a closing number to see if you still know the words. You won't. Or if your mouth shapes them by reflex, your body will interrupt mid-chorus with a truth you didn't plan to say. That interruption is the audible hinge where the door stops being theoretical and becomes a room you can furnish. If shame arrives because you remembered late, meet it like a tired traveler and offer water. Shame dissolves where hospitality replaces performance. The field will mark the crossing with proofs precise enough to embarrass doubt. 3 green lights in a row on a street that never grants them. A stranger phrases your private decision as if quoting your journal. A payment you were owed months ago lands the day you chose to stop underwriting someone else's comfort with your energy. Call these not miracles but metrics, evidence that constructive interference now outweighs noise. Morphic resonance thickens around your choices. The choir remembers your note and carries it farther than lungs alone could carry sound. Here is your one assignment inside the breakthrough. Keep the flame, don't spike the fire. The nervous system loves surges. It can get drunk on elevation and overpromise a lifetime in a weekend. You don't need euphoria to certify the shift. You need fidelity. Keep doing the small, exact things that brought you here. One clear ask, one clean boundary, 1 minute of breath when the room leans towards spectacle. Let the new state prove itself through repetition, not narrative. Finally, listen for the softest confirmation. Ease making ordinary acts luminous. Pouring water feels like aligning planets. Sitting down reads as a vow. Lacing shoes becomes a treaty between gravity and grace. This is what happens when a timeline locks. You stop auditioning for your life and begin inhabiting it. The pressure that once distorted time now becomes propulsion that bends it in your favor. The map you carried stops being secret ink and becomes street signage you can follow at human speed. Hold here. Feel the click echo through your ribs like a bell, teaching stone to sing. The door has swung. The room is yours. You stand on the far side of the hinge, the click still resonant in your bones like a bell that refuses to forget its tone. The corridor that kept rehearsing you has unspooled behind, and ahead, the horizon lifts its first pale thread of light. This is not the end of a lesson. It is the beginning of your appointment. You didn't come here merely to rearrange furniture inside your own life. You came to walk a frequency into the world so faithfully that streets learn it, rooms borrow it, and strangers recognize home when it passes through their chest. What precisely are you carrying? Quantum resonance, the fit between your inner broadcast and the pattern the universe has been trying to sing through you since breath one. When you hold that note, reality answers with choreography instead of resistance. The forgotten map is this: sensation first, symbol second, circumstance last. You were trained to hunt outer proofs before you trusted inner physics. Now you know the order. You orient by coherence, not by applause. You navigate by the body's yes that arrives like warm light under the sternum. You move when 3 signals rhyme within a day, synchronicity's way of stamping your passport. And you honor dawn as a living threshold where choice imprints deepest and timelines consent to be steered. Your mission is beautifully ordinary. Keep the seal, keep the breath, keep the word you wrote where thresholds live by doors, by kettles, by screens, so your biology remembers what you promised the field. Speak truth in sentences too short to perform. Ask clearly without bargaining for your worth. Refuse altars that require your self-abandonment to grant you entry. Offer tiny public rituals that let other bodies feel what coherence feels like. 1 shared exhale before meetings, 1 repair named out loud, 1 policy that chooses dignity over theater. Leadership is not amplification of self, it is conservation of signal. Understand the scale of your service. Every time you choose receiving over rehearsed scarcity, a future child's lungs learn the shape of a longer exhale. Every time you let rest count as a strategy instead of a sin, a hospital corridor quiets by 1 notch. Every time you prefer devotion to spectacle, you teach an algorithm to prioritize what cannot be gamed. Entanglement is indiscriminate, your liberation is public. The species is listening for a note it forgot it could sing. You are that reminder. There will be days when the chorus thins and noise gets clever. Return to the architecture you built. The hand to sternum, the 4-4-6 breath, the word folded in a pocket like a small sundae. Read your life like an instrument panel. If time begins to smear, slow the metronome. If urgency impersonates importance, ask which choice increases coherence for the most bodies the fastest. If old rooms summon, bless them and let tide laws handle the distance. Fidelity, not fireworks, keeps worlds changed. Look east. The dark is honest, it does not pretend to be endless, but it makes a final argument at the border. You answer not with a speech, but with a step. The shore receives your foot like a signature. Behind you, a lineage exhales. Ahead, a city waits for a song it will hum without knowing who wrote it. You are not late. You are right on time for the hour when possibility thins its veil and becomes instruction. Remember the title that found you. It wasn't a riddle, it was a directive. You now know why quantum resonance holds the forgotten map to transformation before dawn strikes again. Because when your inner note and the field's design agree, the sun doesn't just rise outside, it rises inside, and the world reorganizes around the light you carry. Step forward, beloved. Let morning take your hand.